job of killing bed bugs. So prior to World War II, bed bugs were everywhere, and after World War II, they were pretty well knocked out in first world countries, so in Europe and in the U.S. and Australia and those kind of places, bed bugs were knocked out. But they've come back for a number of reasons. The primary reason is during the late 70s and early 80s, y'all remember Rachel Carson? She wrote the book Silent Spring. Okay. So her thing was, she was an early environmentalist, and she thought that we were doing bad things to the world by indiscriminately spraying chemicals all over the place and not disposing of industrial waste properly. And she was right, it was a problem. And so there were a lot of changes to the rules in insecticides, and so a lot of insecticides were banned, just flat out banned. And others were made to be very specific, so if you were going to kill ants, there were materials that killed ants and nothing else. And there were materials that killed perhaps wasps and nothing else. So during the 80s, we had a very small set of tools that we could use, and none of those did a good job of killing bed bugs. So the bed bugs that were in the rest of the world started to come in. So if you remember, you heard about bed bugs first in big cities, and you heard about them in college towns. And the reason for that is they have airports and people travel back and forth, and they were coming in to the U.S. again. So by the 90s, we had a fair number of bed bugs, and it became big news, and bed bugs managed to make it out to everywhere. So now we again have bed bugs essentially everywhere across the entire U.S. There was a time, even recently, that we didn't have much that would kill bed bugs. They're very tough to kill. And then beyond that, they're quick to evolve. So just in the last 2 years, the enzyme that bed bugs use to break down insecticides so they don't kill them has increased by 25%. They make 25% more of that enzyme. And also their shells have got 50% thicker, so it's that much harder for the material to get in there. So as we work on ways to kill them, they work on ways to survive. And right now we're winning. The materials that we have right now do a fine job, but if you wait another year or so, those will probably not be terribly effective, and they'll have to develop something new. So right now we're kind of trading out materials every 2 years because that's about the schedule that the bed bugs are at. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So bed bugs, how to identify those? Perhaps we'll go there. I did bring some bed bugs today, and I brought dead ones. So there's no risk there. I usually bring live ones, and part of my story is when the bottle comes back, I count them and I pretend like there's less than there were. Yeah.
Nice.
But I brought dead ones today because Matt told me that you guys were quite concerned about them getting around. So that's what bed bugs look like. So you'll be able to see that. Probably the biggest thing you care about is, are bed bugs going to get on me, right? They're bed bugs in a facility. Am I going to take them home? And the short answer is probably not. And the reason is this. Bed bugs are nocturnal. They like to come out at night. So they come out when the light in the room is turned off, and when the activity is low, like no one's moving at all, and when the CO2 in the room goes up. And that tells them that something big enough to bother to bite is sleeping nearby. Does that make sense? So if you're moving, if the lights are on, if the door is open, all those things, they're not interested in coming out. So, like I say, I've done this for 30 years, and some of the guys I work with have done it for 10 or 15 years, and none of us have ever taken a bed bug home. So roaches hitch rides on us, and fleas do, and all sorts of other things, but bed bugs do not. So you're pretty darn safe that they're not going to go home with you. So bed bugs also don't care to move from their hiding spots unless there's someone to bite, or unless the population is unusually large. So if bedbugs were in this room, for example, there would need to be, I don't know, maybe 200-300 of them in this room before they would begin to move out from it. Does that make sense? So at a certain population they want to move on, at a lower population they don't. And the only other time that bedbugs move on their own, and this is a big one, is pregnant female bedbugs. Sometimes, and about 30% of the time, they go on walkabout. They just start walking. And so they do this, again, when the population is fairly big. It doesn't have to be as big as when non-pregnant females or males will be, but the population still has to be relatively substantial. So this is where it counts in apartment complexes. So you've got an apartment at the far end of the complex who's got bedbugs, and you get a female who goes on a walkabout. She can walk pretty far. And so I've timed bedbugs. They walk about 1 foot a minute. And if you encourage them, you can get about 3 foot a minute out of them. But at 1 foot a minute, in an hour, if you're, a bedbug on a mission, you could cover 60 feet, which in an apartment complex may be 3 apartments down the way. So it doesn't take long for an apartment complex to share their bedbugs. So here, and in facilities like this, when bedbugs come in, there's a couple things that you want to do. And the first one is not get terribly excited about it. It's very unlikely that they're going to jump on you. And in fact, it's like impossible for that they're going to jump on you. They don't jump. They don't jump. They don't fly. Have any of you watched them go before? Okay. They're very low to the ground, and their legs kind of go out like this. And so you can imagine I can't get a great deal of speed up with that sort of configuration, right? I'm designed to hide in things, and I'm designed to crawl on you stealthily. That makes sense? So I'm not fast, I'm not tricky, and I'm not even smart. So I'm only going to crawl on people who are sleeping, good, solid targets. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're one of those on at home.
So you go in a room and you find bedbugs, and we'll talk about how to find them. But you go in a room, you find bedbugs. What do? You and Matt, correct me here. Can they call you? I found bedbugs. Are you a good first call?
Yeah, you can call
Okay. All right. Very good. So we call Matt. So the linens in the room, you would bag those up. You would carefully take them off the bed, and you would bag those up, and you'd set them down to the laundry. Now, in the laundry, and it's funny, I got to tell this story by saying you have to use soap. You all know that, but we have certain clients who don't understand that the laundry requires soap. So, when you take them to the laundry, the linens and the clothes go in the washing machine with soap. And the soap takes the waxy coat off the bedbugs. And then once the waxy coat is gone, you can put them in the dryer, and the dryer will dry them out, and they will die. So the reason bedbugs and all bugs have a waxy coat, they call it a cuticle, like on your fingers. They have a waxy coat. The reason they have that is to hold their moisture in. If they didn't have that, they would just dry out. So that's why a lot of bugs are shiny. Ants are shiny, bedbugs are shiny, a lot of shiny bugs. It's a waxy coat. So put them in the wash. The soap takes the waxy coat out. Put them in the dryer. They'll pretty simple, and it works every time. And you have to dry them until it's dry. You don't have to over dry. You don't need an extreme heat. Anything, whatever your normal heat comes out is dry. That's dry enough. Yes.
So if they're washed at 160 degrees, are they dead when they leave the washer?
They probably are. 160 isn't accomplished by most water heaters. 100. What is a water heater? Everyone said at 120 or 120. Yeah. Yeah. So 160 is unusual. You're not going to see that. The heat temperature, because I know where you're going, or I think I know where you're going. The temperature at which a bedbug dies is 126 degrees. But it has to be maintained for about 3 hours before it's better to kill them at that temperature. So if you're greater than that temperature, they die faster. If it's less than that temperature, they're just swimming and they're happy. So you will find dead bed bugs after the wash cycle, and you might think that's enough, and a lot of people do, and they stop at that point. You won't, but a lot of people do because they found dead ones. And some will drown, of course, and there are some dead ones who just died a natural death who were in those linens, perhaps. And so you'll find those. And then when you put them in the dryer and dry completely, you'll find some dead ones in with a lint and all that. But if you go through a full wash cycle with soap, full dry cycle, they will die. They simply will die. And I tell folks who really should be happy about that, because it's a very simple way to take care of all the clothes, all the linen, all the washable stuff. Piece of cake. The furniture in the room should stay in the room because we don't want to move them around. And the story I tell folks is, I'm at an apartment complex, and there's one apartment that's just full of bed bugs. And those people have just left, and they've left all their stuff behind. So the maintenance guys are dragging their furniture out, and they're taking it to the dumpster. So the second floor apartment, and the guy's got the mattress, and he's got it like this, and he's carrying it downstairs, and it's going thump, 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 all the way down the stairs. And you can imagine the bed bugs just falling off this. And again, you're probably not silly enough to do that. But if you take a chair that's in an infested room and you carry it down the hall and you set it there, after several days, the bed bugs on that chair are going to get hungry. And they're not just going to die, they're going to begin to walk, right? So you keep all the stuff together, all the stuff in the same room. And there's no furniture that can't be treated. And I'll say it again, there's no furniture that can't be treated. You may choose to throw it out because it grosses you out. And at some level, and you won't reach that level here, but at some level, the damage to the furniture is pretty substantial with the amount of bed bug poop and all that that's all over it. It's truly gross. And if that was you wouldn't want to keep it. But for some folks, they can't afford to get rid of it, so they do keep it even with that markings on there. But even so, no matter how bad the infestation, you can kill the bed bugs on that furniture, in that furniture. And they do go in and on, and they're everywhere. So, I kind of went on a side there. So anyway, all the furniture in the room can stay in the room, and it'll be treated in the room. So if we treat all the furniture, and you folks are doing all the clothes, linen, and all that kind of stuff, then you're all set. And as far as the patient goes, what do you do with them? You know, they have bed bugs. You do find bed bugs on people, and that's one of the ways that they travel. But a good solid wash of that person will do the trick. And bed bugs on people don't hide. I've had people tell me that they take their clients in and wash them up and, you know, check armpits and groin area and that kind of stuff. Bed bugs don't hide that way. It's not their thing. They don't hide on us. They hide in things. So a normal wash of your patient is sufficient to get rid of the bed bugs. Where do you find bed bugs? So there's a few. There's a few spots. There's a few spots. Maybe.
Miranda, call 223, please. Miranda, 223.
These touch screens are supposed to be great, but I tell you, I would prefer a mouse. I don't even need to play with these things. There. The mouse is very nice. Yeah. This is a, and you can't see really well from where you're at, I'm sure, but this is a bed frame. And, yep, bigger for me. So this is a bed frame. I don't know how much you can see, but see all the black on there? That's all bed bug poop. So a bed bug will, got to figure out, there we go. Isn't that lovely? So, thank you. So a bed bug will poop an average of 3 times per meal. So every time a bed bug bites you, he poops 3 times. And so he bites you about every 3 weeks. That's how often they're hungry, about every 3 weeks. So you can imagine the number of bed bugs here. This is bed bugs in the, at least in the hundreds over a long period of time to accomplish this on a bed frame. So there's a bed bug there. So you can see that the little poop stain is about, what is that? Maybe about 1/5 of the size of the bed bug. So if you had one bed bug in a room and that's all you had was one bed bug, and he bit someone, he would poop 3 times, right? So you're far more likely to find the stains than you are to find a bed bug. So the first thing I'd look for is these guys. So here's a mattress. The other was a box spring. Yeah, we'll give it a moment. So here on the it's a box spring too. Oh well. On the bottom of this box spring, here's the top, and there's that little, on the top of a mattress or box spring, there's that little piping bit. It's got a name and I can never remember. They like to hide in there, and on the bottom they like to hide where this fabric, that wispy fabric that lives underneath there, they like to hide at that spot. So those are common places, and this is what it would look like. Yep, that's what it would look like. Oh well, maybe you can come up later. But that's what it would look like if you were to find a bunch of bed bugs on a box spring. So there's a few things to think about when you're looking for bed bugs. So you're nursing staff, housekeeping, maintenance, whatever. You're in a room X. You're looking for bed bugs. Where are you going to find them? Because you don't want to have to search the whole room, right? So one of my theories is that everybody is lazy. And I mean that nicely for us, but everybody is lazy. So if you wanted a drink of water and you had a drink of water next to you, you would drink that drink of water. You wouldn't walk to the next room or over to the next, or down to the store or something, right? It's the same thing for the bed bug. So if I'm a bed bug and I'm in your room, I was going to point at someone, but they always freak out when I do that. So I'm in your room and I'm a bed bug. Where am I going to be in there? And I'm the only bed bug. So remember, I want it to be dark, CO2 to go up, and no one to be moving, right? So I'm going to be near that CO2 source, that breathing source. So I'm likely to be at the head of the bed. That's my place. So if I'm towards the CO2 source, I'm at the head of the bed, and I want to hide when I'm done biting you. And I want that hiding place to be comfortable for me, and for it to be comfortable for me, I want to feel something on top and below me. Does that make sense? So I want to climb into something. The first best place that occurs is in between the mattress and the box spring. Okay, so head of the bed, between the mattress and the box spring, in those pleats, when that fabric turns the corner on the box spring, and on the mattress it makes those little pleats. That's your spot number 1. That is the place to look. That's the fabulous spot. That's where they are. And then if you're in a room that has a couch, and I joke that bed bugs would be called couch beds today if they were developed, because back in the day everybody had a bed, right? And now everybody has couches, and we spend a lot of time on them. And I find that couches as commonly, if not more commonly, than beds. So in couches, where it is, again, CO2 source, you're laying on the couch, right? So that arm of the couch where it comes down, and there's usually a break here between the back of the couch and the arm. There's a little bit of a crease there, an open area. That makes sense? Can you all picture that? That's the couch spot. So in a bed, it's that spot by the head. On the couch, it's that break in the arm. And the second spot on the couch, because some couches are solid there. And if they are, they usually have a rolled arm. And the bottom of that arm comes up with a nice crease against the body of the couch. So if it doesn't have this cut, then they're there. So those are the two spots that you look for bed bugs first. Do we change linens here daily, or is it weekly, or what's every couple of days? I'm sorry.
Weekly.
Weekly. Okay. All right. So let's say our patient here has a family member who has bed bugs at home, and they're bringing them in, and now we notice bites on the patient. So the chances are they've only brought in 3 or 4 probably, and those really haven't had a whole lot of chance to do a whole lot. Bed bugs lay eggs. The eggs take about 3 weeks to hatch. And then those little bed bugs become bigger bed bugs and bigger bed bugs, and a bed bug can live for about a couple of years. It's about their life cycle. So here's our patient. Their family members brought in bed bugs. You're changing the linens weekly. The chance of that getting carried away in your rooms is pretty slim, right? Because you're not even going through an entire cycle. Even if a pregnant bed bug shows up today and lays eggs, you're going to take those away within a week, and it takes 3 weeks for those eggs to develop and hatch. So you're unlikely to have a true infestation. If those occur, then that tells you that the staff isn't really looking for those bed bugs. If they get up in those kind of numbers, somebody's not looking. And it only takes a couple of minutes to look. And it really is a big deal, because if you got them in your facility and let them go, it's hugely expensive, and it's nasty, and it's gross.
Shannon Osmond, call 229, please. Shannon Osmond, call 229.
And you don't want it. So that's how you're going to look for bed bugs there. There we go. Maybe. This is a photograph of different bed bugs. This is an adult. Those ones that you're passing around there, they are this middle guy. So they're kind of this mid-sized one. So they're going to get about a third larger than these. So about apple seed size. And then they start out as eggs, and when they hatch, they're quite small. They're almost clear. The eggs look like sand, except it's sticky sand, and it's sand where it shouldn't be. So if you're down there in those folds, and you're looking at those folds in the box spring, I should have asked, do you have box springs?
No.
Okay. All right.
We just have the mattress.
Do you have the mattress on top of a steel frame?
Yeah.
Okay. So they do very well in the mechanisms that make it go up and down. And I should have thought about that, and I'm sorry. But, so they do like the electric mechanisms that go up and down. Do all your beds go up and down?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So for those, the magic spot on your bed is going to be you picture the bed lying flat like this. When you raise the head, it comes up like this. There's a break in the frame that allows that to occur. Can you picture that?
Yeah.
That's your spot. Okay? So you're going to go to that. If you want to climb upside down and look back up around the head, it's usually hollow there. It's a rounded piece of metal. Does that make sense? So it's hollow right there. Can you picture that? That's a good spot too. So the easy spot is the break, and the second spot is that hollow in the corner. Y'all should have interrupted me. Why'd you let me tell that story?
Well, we want to look at home too.
Oh, you want to look up too? Oh, and I'll tell you about traveling too, because that's important. So the eggs look like sand, but they're sticky sand, and it's in a bunch. So if you find sticky sand in a bunch, you should be concerned about that. Eggs are just eggs. There's no reason why you can't just wipe those. You can spray those with alcohol and they die normal. Do you have rubbing alcohol? Or I don't know what you guys keep on hand, but
We have alcohol.
okay, so an alcohol bottle squirt spritz will get those guys. You can just let that dry for a few minutes, wipe it off, throw the eggs away, and then that's the end of that. So,
Will the disinfectant spray work the same way, or does it have to be alcohol?
you know, most disinfectant sprays have a fair amount of alcohol in them. And so what the alcohol does is it does two things. One, it denatures the proteins in the eggs and kills them that way. So the alcohol actually has an action. But the other thing alcohol does is it dries. So as it dries, it pulls the moisture out in eggs. Something like that. So they'll dry. So they either die because of the alcohol itself, or they'll die because of the drying process. And so allowing the alcohol to dry is just a secondary thing that's going to help kill them. So that's why you wait a few minutes and then wipe them away. So sticky sand where it shouldn't be, because you probably shouldn't have any sand in your place at all. You're looking at eggs. The little bugs are quite small. They're the size of sand. They're coming out of eggs the size of sand, so they themselves are quite small, and they're almost clear. They're translucent. And then as they grow, they get bigger, and they have the little black phases, so they're looking black like that after they eat. This guy ate a while ago. This guy ate just a few minutes ago. That one ate a while ago. And that one had a little meal because he was just a little guy. So this is a close-up. There we go. This is a close-up of bed bugs. So here's mama bed bug. She's laying eggs right there. And one of our guys took this picture. It's actually a great picture. So she's laying eggs, and you can see the eggs right there. But she's not the only one laying eggs, because they all like the same spot, right? So here's a little baby bed bug hatching. Very cool. And I'll leave this one up so you can have a look at that. But you can see all the life cycles, all the different stages right there. So very cool. I'll tell you about traveling, because that's just an aside, but any questions on any of this? They're all terribly quiet. All right.
We're not thinking that picture's as cool as you think.
Oh. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, that's I'm sure it's true.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Do they discriminate at all between humans and animals?
They, and that's, the answer is yes. So, in really bad infestations, the cat will walk by and you'll see bed bugs on it. And, but bed bugs really don't do well on cats. And the reason is, you may have noticed again how flat those guys are, right? Remember, they're flat and they got the crummy legs that can't really move really well. So they do well on flat surfaces. So with a cat, with all that fur, they can't get in there. They're not like a flea. They can't dive down between the hairs. They'd have to kind of swim in there, and they can't get into there. So when bed bugs bite us, they don't bite us where we have hair. They bite us where we don't. So you'll often find bed bugs in hairless areas on folks, and you won't find them so much where they might have more hair even on the top of their arms and that kind of thing. Ticks and fleas, we find those in our hair, right? But bed bugs don't like hair, so they don't do animals. And it's not that they won't. If you had whatever that hairless cat is called, I suppose they'd like that just fine.
But I tell you,
But
my dog's not coming. A hairless dog.
Do you have a hairless dog?
I do.
Or they would like it just fine. There you go.
Nope.
I told this story, that same story. So I said, if you're hairless, then they got more chance. And there was a guy there who was bald, and it was pretty funny because he was starting to itch already.
Yeah.
But so bed bugs. Just real quick, because you asked, they develop from bat bugs. So bats have bugs which look very much like bed bugs. Bat bugs will occasionally bite people, and we get it all the time. People call and say, I have bat bugs, and they don't. They have bed bugs. They just don't want to say it. So bat bugs will occasionally bite people, but they don't do well biting people. So cavemen moved into caves. Bats were already there. Some bat bug got the idea to bite a person. Eventually developed into their own group of bed bugs. So bed bugs did start as bad bugs. They did bite animals, and those still exist, but they still stick to their bats for the most part. Questions?
So what's the best way for us as someone who constantly has new people coming, bringing furniture, clothing, and other objects? What's the best way for us to stop that at the door?
Yeah, how do bed bugs, well, I'll answer your question and we'll kind of go into how do bed bugs turn. So I'm a new patient, I'm moving in your facility and I have bed bugs. How do you know? I would look at the furniture very closely. So they're going to use your bed, but are they going to bring their own chair? Is that how it works? Okay. So on the chairs, generally, you have the lazy boy chairs. They're common.
Yeah.
Okay. Lazy boy chairs. Depends on the style of the lazy boy chair, but again, it's that break in the arm. All lazy boys have that, so that's a good spot. If it's one of those that has the multiple pillow things that fold up again and again and again, each of those creases is a wonderful place to look. And then oddly enough, they like the mechanism of the lazy boy. So if you were to flip it up so that it's got the foot thing. So put the foot thing up and then just grab that and lift it up like this so you can see under there. They like that whole mechanism underneath in a lazy boy. And you'll know they're there because you'll see the poop spots that we looked at on the box frame. You'll see those same poop spots there. And in their home, in people's homes, bed bugs get up into the tens of thousands. And so if they have that kind of level, you're going to see it for sure. And if they don't have that kind of infestation, you'll still find them in those spots. And when you find them, you'll find them. Flashlight's a great idea. We always use flashlights, and it helps out quite a bit. If they're bringing their normal chair, like the kind of chair you'd sit on to tie your shoes or something, is that a common one too?
Yeah.
Okay. On those, usually the fabric is tucked around on the wood frame and then tacked there.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you flip that chair over, that place where the wood and the fabric meet is that spot where the bed bugs like to set. I got something on top of me and below me, and I can sit here and be comfortable. So that's their kind of spot. What other kind of furniture are they bringing in?
No, sometimes they'll bring small tables, display cabinets, end tables, lamps.
Okay. So,
Sofas and pillows.
yeah, you can inspect pillows and be pretty comfortable with that, or wash them if they're washable. But I wouldn't allow. Well, in a perfect world, I wouldn't allow anything to come in that I didn't wash. So I'm suddenly owner of this place. I would say everything that comes in gets washed, every bit of clothing and linen and bed stuff and all that. I'd wash it all. Because you just don't know, right? But that's what I would do there on everything that came in. And then I would inspect everything else. Now, a table that sat in the living room, they don't have a great deal of use for bed bugs unless there's a large infestation. But if it's the nightstand, that's pretty close, right? Because remember the CO2 source is right there, and there's the nightstand. So I'd look at those pretty carefully. That's a great place for it to be.
I would imagine even the end tables like by the couch.
Yeah, the end table's by the couch, yeah.
Some people sit
Right.
on the couches.
Yeah. Yeah, it all depends, and I guess you don't know when they come in. That's kind of tough for you. You don't know where that used to be.
Right.
But on the tables, again, they're not going to be on the surface you see because they're hiders, right? They're going to be underneath. So you flip it over and you look at all the little cracks and crevices.
So they don't always have to have fabric to hook to then because the tables.
They don't have to. in my own mind, and this is not scientific at all, but I say there's hard bugs and soft bugs. There's bugs that like hard materials to be on. Roaches, for example, prefer hard things to hide in, and soft bugs who prefer soft things. And bed bugs are a soft bug. They would prefer to be in a fabric that's tight, so they
Main
can
call
get right in there.
224, Helene 224.
But if I'm a bed bug without fabric, I'm going to make the best of what I have, and I'm going to crawl into whatever I can do. In mobile homes that are terribly infested, in mobile homes they're designed to drive down the highway, right? So they have to be flexible. So they're made with panels, and there's a strip between each panel in the living room or the bedroom. You've probably seen that. In those bed bugs, if it's a really bad infestation, we'll find them there. That's a great spot for them. And so some of my favorites, maybe not yours, I think you didn't like my picture, but some of my favorites are where the mobile home that have both bed bugs and roaches. You'll go in and their antennas are sticking out of those little trim bits. So,
Oh, good.
so you can go in there and they're all just antennas hanging out. There's too many of them to fit in there nicely. So, they're kind of fun.
You know, a funny idea was.
Yeah. Well, it's like nurses knowing jokes at the dinner table is probably a little different from most people, right?
Kathy Durier, please call 283. Kathy Durier.
Other questions?
So if I guess still didn't hear the answer I think we're all looking for. So Mrs. Jones is bringing her furniture in.
Yes.
We've done the inspections and we think we're pretty sure we're good, but you don't always know. Is there something we can do as a facility one more thing we could do to ensure that we are not, I know they have cook tents and all this kind of stuff. Are those things that are actually effective?
Oh, again, yeah, they have, and I don't think you need to do this. You can, of course, and those things are quite expensive. They do work, they are nice. So they do have things that you can buy that are like trailer-sized heating units that you can put the furniture in, just cook it for a while. So you can raise that temperature above 126 and let it sit there for 3-4 hours, and then you know that you're. And they make those, and you can get those. It doesn't require a license. Anyone can get one, and they work well. They melt stuff. That's part of the challenge. So if you put their TV in there, it's likely to melt, and so they do melt things.
But they do hide TVs too. That's what you're saying.
You know, they don't like TVs. That the bug in the electronics thing, that whole thing. It was actually a moth that started that, but roaches love electronics. Bedbugs really don't. They don't have any use for them. But if the infestation is bad enough that the bedbugs are in your electronics, they would be bad enough that you would see it for sure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So you can do that. Oh, but what can you do? You can spritz everything with alcohol if you'd like. There's nothing wrong with that. You could flip the chair over and spritz it. And there's another product called Therafab. You're familiar with it? It's mainly alcohol. It's got a couple other things in it, but you can use that as a spritzer. And it kills all the bed bugs that it hits. The trick is that I've got this thing. It's got bed bugs on it and in it. I spritz it with alcohol. The bed bugs who I hit are likely to die. The ones who are inside are not.
So it's a contact.
Yeah, because the alcohol is going to evaporate and go away. There's nothing left behind to kill them. So it does. You can do that, and it's a partial answer. It's not a bad thing. It's certainly not a bad thing to go ahead and spritz, but it's not the answer. So just visually looking very carefully is the best thing there.
Now, we normally treat just about everything that comes through maintenance, the furniture, with the over-counter bed bug spray.
Yeah.
But a lot of our problem is on the weekends or something, and there's nobody in the front office, it comes through the front door and we don't know it. So I'm trying to just let everybody know here that it needs to come through maintenance no matter what it is.
Yeah, you know, if you have that set up that you're already doing that, yes, you should enforce that it comes through you guys. You'd be asking a patient to go without their stuff for a couple of days, perhaps. I don't know if that's an issue or not. Or you could have a maintenance person on call. I don't know if that's an issue. It's an expense
There's
as well.
usually always one maintenance person here during the day,
Oh, well, then you're not going to admit at night anyway, right?
but
We would try.
Okay. I
Some
suppose it
people
could
are pretty
happen,
sneaky.
but- Okay, all right. And I guess people could bring in furniture from home as well. You don't know it. They bring in the table, they bring in mom's room.
Yeah.
Did I answer that? So yes, everything should go through a central place, and if you are treating them yourselves, you should enforce that. That would make good sense.
yeah, anything we use, we try to get to go through maintenance, even if it's as simple as a lamp. But
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I know the hospitals make everything electronic anyway, has to go through maintenance. Because they have to test it to make sure it's not a fire risk. So certainly a lamp should go through anyway, probably, but it would make sense.
So once we discover a room that is infested with bed bugs,
Mhm.
what is the best procedure at that point to?
Okay, this is what I would think, is that you would, I'd be honest with the patient. I would tell them, there's bed bugs in your room and we need to take care of that. So I would move them out. I'd probably take off their clothes and put them in a gown, and your showering facilities are separate from the rooms. Yes. So you would get them there and you would clean them, and while you're doing that, you would strip the room of all of its fabric, which would go in trash bags, which I would seal, and I'd be crazy enough to tape them closed. If a bedbug tried to get out, he'd get stuck in the tape, right? I'd take all that to the laundry. I would make very sure that everyone knows what I have, and they would put it directly in the wash and in the dryer. You do your own laundry here, right?
Mhm.
Perfect. And then I guess I'd give maintenance a call, and I would quarantine that room until someone came and treated that. And then it's generally 4 hours after treatment that you can go back in the room. And I would enforce that firmly. And then once the room is treated, once you've done all the laundry, there's really no reason the patient can't go back in there. You may continue to find bed bugs. Remember, bed bugs feed every 3 weeks, right? So here's my room, and I'm a patient, and one of the bed bugs, for whatever reason, has crawled up into the ceiling here. And he may decide to stay there for all 3 weeks. And he's pretty safe up there, right? Because no one's getting up in that space to treat and all those kinds of things. So he's pretty safe in his little location. But 3 weeks from now, he's going to crawl out. And when he does, he's going to encounter the material and he's going to die. So that's okay, but y'all need to know that you may continue to see bed bugs in that room for up to 3 weeks if they're hiding that well.
So as far as cleaning the room, what would you suggest?
As far as
After you spray, how would you clean that room?
Yeah, thank you. As little as you can manage is the answer. If you drop a plate of spaghetti on the floor, of course you got to clean it up, and you should. But you should not do anything crazy for like 3 weeks. You should allow the material to stay where it is, and that way, if there are any bed bugs climbing out of anything, then they'll die. Thank you very much. That's a good one. So yeah, so 3 weeks you should not do much. Do as little as you can manage for 3 weeks.
How about the mattresses and that kind of stuff that doesn't not gonna hurt our residents or anything else with them?
No, it's, well,
Because we do have sheets over top of them, but.
yeah. Well, it's funny, and this is the long answer. The long answer is that I can't promise you anything, because that's how the label, what the label says is what the law is, and we can't give you promises beyond the label. So the label says that it's fine for this use, and that you should put a sheet on it, and it's unlikely to affect anyone. There is, depends on the material you use, it's between 100 and 250,000 people are the two levels they use. And it's either 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 250,000 people are allergic to this stuff in a significant way. So if you're that unlucky person, you could end up with, you know, quite the rash or something from it.
The only thing I've been doing with them, I'm the infection control person.
Okay.
I'm carrying these rooms apart.
Okay.
Put them back together.
All right.
The only thing I've done to wash off is actually the top surface of the mattress where my patient is going to have contact. I'm not doing the bottoms or the seams or the zippers or anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's
just wipe them off with water.
And I think that's okay, because if the mattress is intact, and in homes we see mattresses that aren't, then you probably get rid of your,
Yeah.
Right, and ours aren't cloth, ours are covered
Yeah.
materials.
yeah, so if the mattress was ratty, then you'd have to worry about bed bugs coming through. But if it's an intact mattress, wiping out the top is fine.
Okay, that's all.
Absolutely fine, yeah. Yeah, and I'd hit the rails and stuff too, that they, you know, patients are gonna touch, whatever they're gonna touch, those surfaces should be cleaned, and that's okay.
That's all we're doing.
Yeah. But once it's dry, it says it's fine, except for that rare person. And it's funny, I haven't met that rare person yet, but I've been doing it long enough that I probably should pretty
We do
soon.
like you come out overnight.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with waiting longer, but the 4 hours is your target. And that's what the label says, but there are times, and you're not gonna have this level of infestation here, but we'll get times where that lazy boy is so infested that it really does have to be wetter than normal. Well, they wanna keep it, this is a poor person perhaps, and they want to keep it, so they may be off that for a whole day, because it's that level of treatment. Does that make sense? Okay. But 4 hours certainly for you should be more. Other questions?
So,
Yes.
this doesn't really have to do with fear, but a lot of us travel. What precautions should we take when we're staying in a hotel?
All right. I was traveling just recently. I went to Maine. Have you been to Maine?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, go to Maine.